What up? And welcome to another episode of From the Script to the Screen. The Jujutsu Kaisen edition. And as always, first and foremost, want to shout out the creator, Gege Akutami, and the studio, MAPPA, for bringing us this great piece of work. This week, the 8th episode of Season 2 finally kicks off the Shibuya arc with the first battle going down. Yuji gets into a fight with the Grasshopper Curse, and even though to some he might have a funny appearance, as we know by now from watching the show, curses that are able to actually communicate and things like that are actually pretty powerful. So this wasn't really a pushover curse. It just did show a little bit of the growth that Yuji has went through. This week they switched it up a little bit, covered 3 chapters, but they started with chapters 86 and 87 that covered the Yuji fight, and then jumped back to chapter 84, which covers the interaction between Gojo and I'd like to call them the elemental curses. But to get into Yuji real quick, like I said, I love the beginning of this episode because we do see that everything that Yuji went through in season 1 has had an effect on him, and he approaches this battle way more tactical. I think he understands how serious the situation is, and being the fact that it's in public, he's trying to make sure he doesn't make a mistake. And so we see that when he runs into this Grasshopper Curse, instead of him just trying to run into battle and overpower it, he starts to analyze the situation. We know that they're dealing with barriers and veils, so he's trying to find a way to get over that. So shout out to Yuji. Like he said, we see that he's not trying to lose anymore, and so he's definitely taking steps to achieve that. Something I enjoy seeing this week. Because we know that Yuji always had the raw power. And so like I said, having a different approach to battle is going to help him. And in this instance, his raw power did help him out. Yuji really beats the curse down. Even though it's an insect, we know that they can always double their output. And so a human-sized insect is definitely going to be a problem. A shout out to Yuji, he takes care of that. And with him breaking the barrier, like I said before, in season 2, we start to deal with more of the Jujutsu world. And so to kind of give a breakdown about what's actually going on, since we're seeing it from 2 perspectives, like the assistant explains at the beginning, there's a barrier going on that's keeping normal people trapped inside, which is where Gojo is dealing with the elemental curses. And then there's another barrier that's keeping Jujutsu sorcerers out, which is where we see Mahito at the end of the battle. But he sees that the Grasshopper Curse has lost, and so what I assume, he then proceeds to go to the next station, which is the Shibuya station. So now we assume that this barrier that was keeping the sorcerers out is now taken care of, and so they go down there to see, and we see them run into a human, and that's all we know. After that, getting into Gojo's situation, we see that he is surrounded by humans or non-sorcerers, and so this is what they try to use to their advantage. We see that Geto explains he's most vulnerable when he's around people because, like we've seen when he fights, his curse energy output and his techniques basically destroy the environment. That's how powerful he is. We know that he deals with gravity and things of that sort. And so if you have him surrounded by people, they're not going to be able to withstand this sheer force. So they feel like they'll be able to limit him, and at this point would be able to damage him. Now, Geto also explains to the curses that they won't be able to use their domain because at that point, the non-sorcerers would be out the picture anyway, and Gojo would be able to use his domain. And like he says, we all know who would win in the domain battle. And so we see the fight kick off. But something I think Gojo could have been surprised by was that the curses, as we see, started to kill people anyway. So At this point, he kind of has to analyze the situation as it's going on, but something I did enjoy seeing this week. It's Gojo. So like we saw in the beginning of the season, after he lost his first battle, he started working on his curse technique at a faster pace. And so I'm pretty sure at this point, precision and his control is immaculate at this point. And so we see that he's still able to deal with what the curses are doing at this point. But again, we know that they have more tricks up their sleeve. Geto explains how he just needs a little bit of time and this cursed tool, this prison realm. So things are really just kicking off. But looking forward to the next episode. Let me know what you guys thought. I'm always gonna want to know what you guys think is gonna go down. And that's it. Waiting on the next one. Peace.